Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well in this time of quarantine as things continually are changing. There's so much newness and it is definitely a huge transition. But during this time of quarantine, I have found myself watching more movies than I can count. I don't know about you, there's specific Netflix shows you've been binging or new movies you've been trying to find, but for myself and my family, it has been movies. Old movies, new movies, Disney movies, shoot 'em up movies, all of them. Some of them are good, and some of them are actually great. The ones that are good, just tuck them away for later, but these great ones I have been sharing with everyone. So this past week, I actually found a movie, Apple Plus TV, everyone. You need to buy it. Super cheap, great streaming service. I found one of the greatest movies I think I've seen in years, and it was called The Banker. So this movie is set up by showing the life of a little black shoeshine boy living in a very segregated part of Texas in the 60s, and he works outside of a bank. So he sits and he shines these businessmen's shoes who are going in to work on their accounts, to withdraw money, to deposit money. So he's around a very specific demographic. So as the time goes on, this young man becomes a businessman who actually moves to LA with his family in the hopes of continuing to make money and to grow his wealth. So he wants to grow his business and he wants to start a real estate business. So he jumps right in. In this predominantly white area still, even though he's in LA now, he comes up with a plan. So his partner that he finds is played by none other than Samuel L. Jackson. Great character. And they start their business. Only during this time, they, as two black men, even though they are wealthy and knowledgeable and are able to present themselves well, they need somebody who is white to front their business. So they find somebody that they're friends with and they basically present this idea. They say, we want to buy the bank that I worked outside of when I was little because I want to show all these people that I, as a black man, can do it. And so it goes on. The story continues. I really don't want to spoil it because I'm telling you, you need to watch it. It's so good. But the premise is based off of these two men who find hope in a hopeless situation. I think this is really relevant in this time of COVID, of everything that's happening politically and in our world. We need hope and we need to find it. Sometimes I find myself specifically struggling to respond to the hardships and the seasons of my life. Now, that is such a Christianese term, season, but I think it is a really good example of the ups and downs and the twists and turns that are actually happening on our day-to-day. Things are not the same. Things are changing constantly, and we need to know how to respond in those things, whether it's easy or it's hard. So I am almost finished with my senior year of college. Praise the Lord. It's been a long time coming, and I'm so ready to be done. I love it, and I love learning, but it's time. I'm ready to go. I only have 2 more classes before I graduate, so that's a blessing in itself. But Jesus has been at the center of all this. I've gone through a lot of transitions. I have endured a lot of hardships in the past 3 years, but I have been able to hold on to the hope that God has a vision and He has a plan. So I actually attended 2 different colleges. I started my career off at Azusa Pacific University in Southern California, and I'm from Northern California. And 2 years of being there, God was calling me into a full-time ministry school where I would be able to continue my degree while being a over full-time intern at a multi-campus church in my area, and God called me into that. Well, as I was nearing the end of my career in college and this whole COVID thing hit, I was kind of stuck into what's next. God, what is next and what's happening and what do I need to do? He's always been so clear with the vision that He's given me and has been very faithful to answering my prayers of God, what is next and what doors do you have open for me? And how am I going to continue to pursue you in the midst of these hardships and these twists and turns? I did not hear Him at all. I was in my word and I was praying and seeking advice, but I've always had such clear vision, but during this season, He has not been giving it. That's hard. That's really hard to sit and to rest in when all you want is to hear an answer. But God said, this is my answer right now, not an answer. And so you need to remain faithful. I actually applied for a job with Compassion International, and I heard back very quickly, and God made it very clear that was my next step. So I think it's really easy to get stuck in this season and to get stuck in the routine of, I don't know, this is hopeless, nothing's going to change. But there are little things that we can do to find hope in this hopeless situation. I want to share with you guys the story of Ruth and Naomi. We see a similar situation to these two women's responses in a hopeless situation. We're presented with both Ruth and Naomi. The story is one of Ruth's life and the hardships that she has faced. So she lost all of her family. She was widowed. Her sister-in-law left her, and she, as a woman, a young woman, had nowhere to go. She had lost it all. And in the midst of the chaos of her situation, there was no answer. She clung to her mother-in-law, Naomi, who was also now widowed. These women are strong, and they fight against the odds. From their emptiness comes renewal. So the renewal does not come easy in the midst of this story, but it comes from a place of dramatic change and the presentation of a different narrative. Ruth and Naomi did not know what was going to happen, and they were not prepared for it, which happens often in our lives. So I'm going to read to you guys Ruth 1 through 10. Feel free to follow along. I'm reading from the New International Version. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. This man's name was Elimelech. His wife's name was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to Moab, and they lived there. Now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died. She was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. And after they had lived there for 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died. And Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people for providing food for them, she and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where they had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. Go back to where you came from. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband." Then she kissed him goodbye, wept aloud, and said to her, "We will go back to you with your people." I am sure that there have been times in your life when it looks like there is nowhere to turn and the only answer looks like giving up. There's so many examples that I could give. In marriages and friendships, in jobs, in parent-child relationships, we are broken people looking for broken answers in a broken world, in a society that will never give us answers that will fully suffice what we're seeking. The media has you turn to it. People in life will insist that you listen to them. But if this is what Ruth did, if Ruth listened to Naomi and she stayed where she was, she would not have found the hope in this season and in the situation that God was calling her out of. God offers hope. He looks at your situation and he restores your perspective. This is exactly what happened for both Ruth and Naomi in the midst of their loss and their displacement. There is both a cultural transformation that they endure and a spiritual one. So Ruth went through the transformation of a Moabite daughter. It said, I believe 3 times in the text, that she was a Moabite, she was a Moabite, she was a Moabite. And this actually continues throughout her story as she is traveling with her mother-in-law, Naomi. So one of the biggest things that distinguished Ruth in this new land was that she was a Moabite. In these times, the people in Israel were not supposed to integrate with the Moabite people. Ruth stood out. They looked at her and said, "Moabite, you are a Moabite." They saw it and they knew it. This would be like pointing out the one thing that makes you feel the most different from anyone else and only calling you that. Like okay, I have glasses. That's something that differentiates me from a decent amount of people. And it would be like looking and saying, glasses, glasses, glasses. And that was what she was. She was not Ruth. She was the Moabite. So how would that feel? I mean, I think that would be isolating, degrading, and it would create disunity within the people that she was now trying to integrate with. So in verse 10, Ruth refers to herself as a foreigner, meaning czar. This is translated as a dangerous outsider. This was the word deemed to her, dangerous outsider. This widowed, poor, lost woman. Two other words could have been used here. They could have used the word ger, G-E-R, and nokri, meaning resident alien and outsider, which basically meant a non-Israelite. But she chooses the word dangerous outsider. This is how she is referred to. But from Ruth's actions, she seems anything but dangerous and audacious. Ruth had to take action in order for the transformative grace of Yahweh to bring hope. She rested in the faithfulness of Yahweh despite her situation. She displaced herself from where she was safe, knowing that there was hope on the horizon. Continuing in these verses, she follows in Boaz's fields, and she just wants food. She just wants work, and she's willing to do it. We talk about the gleaners and the reapers as she's working in the field, and she kind of possesses both of these roles in different ways. So what's the difference between a gleaner and a reaper? A gleaner is somebody who picks up the grain left in the field by the harvesters, and someone who gathers something in small pieces, slowly and carefully. We can kind of think of this in terms of gleaning in information. You're listening, you're looking, you're interacting and just soaking it in, so you're gleaning it. And then a reaper is somebody who just helps to gather the harvest. They have learned, they have done, the harvest is plenty, and they are going and they are reaping it. So there is opportunity. She is promoted because of the favor that she finds in these situations. So what are you going to do in this season of searching for hope? Are you going to be a gleaner, or are you going to be a reaper? The next time that you feel that you're in a hopeless situation, look to the movement of the situation. Where could it be taking you? What has it brought you out of? And what is God doing to show up inside of it? What opportunities is God giving you when you hold on to His hope? What if we all did what we could every day to hold on to every ounce of hope that we can? What changes would we see in our interactions with others and our relationships with family and friends? What transformation would you see in your relationship with the Lord? Hope allows us to rest in the grace and the power of Jesus. It draws us near to the King by clinging on to His hope in hopeless situations. So I just want to encourage you during this time of craziness, of quarantine, of the questions of next steps. How are you going to hold on to His hope?